We welcome to the David Glenn Show Hall of Famer Rick Hendrick. Welcome, sir. How are you?
David, how are you? Good to be with you.
I'm doing great, and I'm really honored to have you with us today. You have an amazing story being raised on a family farm near Warrenton, North Carolina. I know you jumped to the other side of the state line and went to high school in South Hill, Virginia. But as you sit here overseeing this incredible empire, Rick, how do you explain how the little boy from the Warrenton area ended up in the shoes you fill right now?
I guess he's pretty lucky and at the right place at the right time. But no, I'm very fortunate. I get to make a living doing the two things I love the most outside of my family, and that's racing and the automobile business. So, and I owe a lot to so much to North Carolina. I got started right there in Raleigh, working at the Citgo station in North Raleigh, and going to school at Westinghouse and State. So I owe North Carolina a ton.
All right, now chasing passion is something that is a common thread in a lot of extremely successful people. What else would you put on that list? Because there's a lot of listeners right now across North Carolina saying, I wonder what Rick did, because I'd like to sign up for some of that.
Well, if you pursue something you love, if you whatever you love in life, if you can work in that field, getting up every morning is a lot easier.
Yeah.
And the key to any successful business is it's all about the people. And I've been very fortunate to be surrounded by some great individuals, both in the automobile side and the racing side. And it's all about our teammates that make it work and have made it work for a lot of years. So I feel very fortunate. I'm just part of that train that keeps chugging down the track.
Now, we read that at an early age you actually considered a pro baseball career, and we do know that you did have a short career as a driver. So tell us, what allowed you to, stick to motorsports with that passion in mind, but also, B, jump to the business side that has made you so famous over these last decades?
Well, I loved driving, and I was drag racing before I had a driver's license, and then I drove in NASCAR some races, and pretty quickly I realized that I could hire people a lot more talented than I was. So you want to surround yourself with the best. And all at the same time, I got an opportunity to go to Bennettsville with a small Chevrolet dealership. I was recruited by GM, and I had to make a living, and I was just very fortunate that some doors opened and great opportunities. And in both situations, I almost closed the motorsports operation 7 races in because we didn't have a sponsor. Won that race in Martinsville, got a sponsor, and kind of the rest is history. And the automobile business, I sold everything I had, furniture, cars, and to get my first deal in Bennettsville. And you had your back against the wall, and you had to perform. And then got some other opportunities. So I've been very blessed. I've been married for 42 years, and she detailed cars when I was going to school. And wow. I can't get her to detail them anymore, but it's been a great ride.
Rick Hendrick is joining us on the David Glenn Show, heading into the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. That ceremony tomorrow night. Of course, you can learn more at ncshof.org. I'm glad you brought up that car dealership. I mean, on this long list of things that amaze me about your life and career, you actually owned the car dealership at the age of 23. Now, at 23, Rick, I was in law school, so I was doing some serious things, but like girls and beer were 2 of the other highest priorities in my life. How did you have your stuff together at such a young age that you were owning and selling cars at 23?
Well, I actually started working on cars when I was in high school. I won that Plymouth troubleshooting contest in high school, and so when I was going to school with Westinghouse and over at NC State, for extra money, I was working at a service station, and I found out that I could make more money selling them than I was working on them. But I just started early, and I was kind of driven to do. To want to get an opportunity. I worked for Mike Leith there in Raleigh, who taught me a lot and ran his import division. And I raced. I never quit racing. I raced boats. I raced drag cars, and that's been a part of my life with my dad on the farm. He raced on the weekends. So that was kind of, implanted in me, embedded in me at a very young age, working on the cars and racing. And I just was a gearhead and loved automobiles. So it just followed that dream.
Speaking of Dad and the farm, one of my favorite stories that I've heard you share over the years. I mean, you're a man who's owned, I would imagine, hundreds of cars. I know there was a Corvette once owned by Roy Orbison, the singer. There was a Camaro once owned by Reggie Jackson, the baseball player. Corvettes once owned by the King of Belgium. I mean, this is pretty impressive stuff. But you've said your favorite, if there was that hypothetical fire that we would never wish upon you, but if there was one, you'd go immediately to one vehicle and drive it out first to save it. Tell us, what is that vehicle and what's so special about it to you?
Well, it would be my 31 Chevrolet that my dad and I built when I was 14 years old in my granddad's store. Man. And in the girls' bathroom, we built the car. And so I still have that car. It never left the family. I raced it when I was 14, and then on my 40th birthday, he restored it and drove it into City Chevrolet with my wife and two kids in the rumble seat. And it's the centerpiece of my car collection here in Charlotte, and it will always be number one.
Well, I would think you're one of those guys who ends up, your staff has to think when Mr. Hendrick has a birthday, man, what do you get the guy who has everything, So your dad restoring that old car that he knew was important to you or the whole family affair, that has to be one of the greatest gifts you've ever received, I'd imagine.
Well, to see that car roll into then the big dealership I had here in Charlotte on my 40th birthday with my kids in the rumble seat, that's a picture that I'll always remember. I don't have my dad or my son anymore, but it's a special place in my heart. I've actually recreated the general store in my museum, and the car sits in front of it. So a lot of history, a lot of family history with that car.
So much of what we can learn from you will probably never attain. There are only so many guys who can run Hendrick Motorsports while also running Hendrick Automotive Group. But I hope this isn't too personal a question. There are a lot of people who have gone through family tragedies.
Yeah.
And you not only were not thrown off track, or maybe you were, but you certainly not only survived, but you thrived in the aftermath. You mentioned your son, Ricky. It was about a decade ago. You lost him in the plane crash, a lot of other family and friends. What is your advice? Because that's a human issue that people go through, and nobody ever wants to lose a child. I say that as a father of two myself. How did you not only get through that, but really thrive in the aftermath?
Well, when you go through something like that, it's your faith, your family, and your friends that get you through it. And I remember the shock and awe that day when I got the news, and I didn't think I could ever come back to motorsports. But I felt like these folks are family too, and all those folks on that plane, my son included, they died doing something they loved, and to carry that on for them. When I came back about 2 weeks later, and everybody was assembled here, and we all cried together and celebrated together and said we're going to honor them and go on. And every time we win a race, we turn our hats around backwards and point toward heaven to remember those guys. And it was a motivation because of the extended family that you just have to go on. And so, some people think it's corny, but we look at our group, whether it's an automotive racing, as one big family, and they work together and they want to win. We're very competitive, but they have a lot of heart.
Rick Hendrick is joining us on the David Glenn Show. He owns Hendrick Motorsports, of course, founder of Hendrick Automotive Group. You can follow Hendrick Motorsports on Twitter at Team Hendrick. You happen to be right there at a sweet number 65 on your birthday count that at least has some people thinking of retirement. You do not seem to be near that, and you have a heck of a lot going on. So give us a sense of the what's next for Rick Hendrick and where you view yourself in your own career?
I enjoy what I do. I don't have, it's hard for me to keep up the pace I used to keep up, but I've got some really good folks around me, and I love what I do, and I don't think I'm ready to sit in a rocking chair anytime soon. I owe too much money. I've got to keep working. So, I can't retire. But no, it's when you look at the motorsports operation and our wins and the automotive group now, we are the largest privately held group in the country now. And but just seeing the young people come into the sport like Chase Elliott, and I never thought I'd see the day that Jeff Gordon would retire and I'd continue to work. But it's exciting times, and I still enjoy it every day, and as long as I've got my health, I'm going to push on. So, I'm not as quick as I used to be, but my mind still has that desire.
It's so funny that you would mention the money that you owe, because I'm not a particularly wealthy person myself, but as an attorney, I worked with some who were. And I noticed that everybody remembered how much money they had, on that side of the ledger, but nobody ever thought that they also had at least some on that second side of the ledger. Have you found that it works that way for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You get up every morning, you want to survive and thrive. It's just, we're just so fortunate to live in this country, for a guy like me that grew up on a farm, to be able to do the things that I love to do in life, to get to meet the people and to get to go into the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame. I mean, if you told me when I was 15 or 18 working in that service station, hey, one day you'll sell more cars than any privately held guy, or you'll win championships in NASCAR. I mean, I was just trying to put enough money together to keep my old hot rod running, and it's just a great country that we live in, and I have surely been blessed by being surrounded by some awesome people.
This is probably a long list, and I might be pushing the bounds of your memory to spit out a lot of names, but when your staff, for example, set us up at the David Glenn Show to visit Hendrick Motorsports, like, you were the ultimate celebrity. You were the guy that we were all looking forward to shake your hand. How often in your life have you felt like kind of the little boy, excited to meet this entertainer or this athlete or this political figure somewhere in the United States or across the world?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to go to White House a couple of times, and when we'd win championships, and anytime you're in the presence of the President of the United States, it's a tremendous feeling. I was big baseball fan. Now Reggie Jackson's very good friend of mine, coming in town this weekend.
Cool.
And I've been able to meet a lot of people and a lot of celebrities, and they become friends. And I'd say probably Billy Graham would be the guy that I was in awe of, just being in his presence. So. But it's a ton of people like that. But that's one of the neat things about what I get to do. I went down to spring training with Reggie and took my grandson, and A-Rod crushed 2 and then gave my grandson his bat. So I told him, man, you better hold on to that bat. Don't let anything happen to it. Don't take it out in the yard. And that'll be worth something one day.
Rick Hendrick is joining us on the David Glenn Show, heading into the North Carolina Sports Hall of Fame tomorrow night. I saw you went into another Sports Hall of Fame recently. You've been in business halls of fame in your life, and I don't know if these exist, but you could also be a candidate for charitable halls of fame. I've heard the saying a lot, those who have a lot have either an obligation or an incentive to give a lot, and you have fit that description. Tell us about the Hendrick Marrow program or the Hendrick Foundation for Children or the other things that you've become involved with as you've, obviously become incredibly successful business-wise. You've opened the door pretty widely to your place in the community, even beyond sports and business.
Yeah, well, very fortunate. I grew up on a farm, and you had to look after each other. And my mom and dad taught me that at an early age, then I got leukemia, and so many people rallied to help us, and we started Hendrick Mara program, and actually have our golf tournament Monday and the big dinner Sunday night, and we'll raise over $1 million here this weekend for the Children's Hospital and the Mara program. And at the same time, I'm the chairperson of the camp fund here to send underprivileged kids to camp this summer. So we're working on that at the same time. But it's been I could see when I went through leukemia, people needing a transplant, and we started a program called Patients Assistance that would help people that were having financial trouble. And so we've typed over hundreds of thousands of people, and we've raised millions of dollars. And I'm very fortunate I survived, and there are children I meet every year that have survived, and then there's some that I don't get to meet again that don't survive. So we're doing our best to help the people from all over the country and the world that have life-threatening blood diseases, and then my brother always was so instrumental in trying to help children. My daughter has got a program, together we feed for kids that don't have food, and in the summer when they're not going to school can't get free lunches, so we've jumped in to try to do that. But it's when you're blessed and you want to help and you see people in need, you want to do what you can. And again, I've got a lot of support from a lot of people, and we're really looking forward to the weekend and meeting some more folks that are going to meet the people that have matched them. So it's a great cause.